and we just think his voice, you just believe, he's like Morgan Freeman or, certain Liam Neeson, especially when you're going to make a horror and you're asking the audience to go to places that, a little bit of a stretch. If you have an actor with that amount of gravitas, you believe what they say. So when Fishburne says, the ship is alive, you believe it. With some actors with less gravitas and without that wonderful voice, you may not believe it.
Yeah, definitely. He's an unbelievably cool guy. My favourite memory of him is we set up this gym for all of the actors at the studio because they all had to do their own wire work, and it's very difficult in wires. You have to have a very strong core because otherwise you get tired very quickly. So we set up this kind of upside down crunching device where you would hang upside down, in those gravity-defying boots, and then you do sit-ups upside down. And I walked into the gym one time and Fish was hanging upside down, and he started talking to me about the script and what we were going to be shooting that day. And eventually he worked his way around to what he really wanted to say, which was he was exhausted and he couldn't get off these fucking gravity boots. And would I mind helping him then? But he was just too damn cool to kind of come out with it straight away. So he was a great guy to work with, and I learned an awful lot from him. He was a very, very generous actor.
Next. Yeah.
If you had the hell footage, would you put it back? Because seeing the film and when you reach that point, it's so over the top, and it's the less you see is more effective, and it becomes ultimately more terrifying when it gets to that point. Would you actually go back and change that kind of stuff?
I think using the same editing pattern of 1-2 frame cuts, I think you could get a lot more in there.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it would be an extended 10 minutes worth of of kind of hellish unpleasantness.
Yeah.
I think it would all be very fast. No, if the movie had a longer running time, it would be reinstating things like the floating tooth, which was just fantastic. It was like the space station shot from 2001, where you thought you were up close something huge, and then it turns out it's just a tooth and it's got a bit of flesh hanging off it. It was just great. And Fishburne's reaction to it was awesome.
Cool.
That's a funny scene, actually. We didn't realize until we were shooting it, is that all the people who stay on the Lewis and Clark and watch on the monitors were all British actors. And all of the people who actually went on to the event Horizon and did the dangerous hard work were all Americans. You're like, wow, the American spirit of adventure compared to British, no, you go do that. And I'll just stay on the spaceship where it's warm, have a cup of tea.
Anyone else? Yes.
Yeah. Since you're filming here at Resident Evil 5 in Toronto, and you've been to many countries and cities, what do you like about Toronto? Canada?
It's a town that's really rich in fantastic locations, which is why we're here. And it's also just a very civilized place to make movies. Mila and I love it here. I think she would move here if she could. And it's very, very good crews here, good studio space. It's a great place to make movies. If the Canadian dollar could get a bit weaker, that would help. I remember when we first started working here, it was great because you'd go to Starbucks in the airport, and you kind of order a couple of cups of coffee and give them $5, and they give you $6 back with coffee. And I'm like, wow, we're making money here. It's great. Those days are gone, unfortunately. I definitely, like I said, some of the cast were, they weren't the happiest bunnies coming to work every day, and it was. Jolie in particular, I think, had a tough time with it as well. She had a kind of young child, and at one point I remember we had to drag her away from Daisy's birthday party because we had to shoot with her and tie her up in barbed wire. And she's like, I'm supposed to be having jelly and ice cream right now. So, I don't know if any of them kind of took it. I often think about that poor boy actually who plays Kathleen Quinlan's son, who I just think we probably traumatized the little bit, because one of the things that isn't in the movie is when he looks down, his legs are all kind of withered and covered in sores. We actually did a different version of that where his legs were all withered and covered in sores and covered in maggots as well. And this poor kid, we kind of, to get his reaction, we we had a sheet like this, so he didn't see what we were doing. And then we would roll and we would take the sheet away and he'd see his legs. And that's why his reaction is so good. But he was a poor boy, and he's like playing his PlayStation or something like that. And then we take it away and he sees these maggots and just burst into tears. And it was so bad. And actually that was in the very first screening of the movie. And that's why I learned a very important lesson. Sometimes less is more. Because at that point, the audience was so horrified and traumatized already that when they saw the maggots, they're like, oh, get the fuck out, this is enough. And they actually stopped. It took them out of the movie. It was just one thing too many. And it just broke the suspension of disbelief because they just couldn't handle it. So we took that out, and I think that was definitely